fellow booktubers, my name is Lauren, you're watching Dreams, Books, Courage, and today I'm going to be doing episode 2 of hashtag Browse My Bookshelf. If you guys didn't see my last video, I will be leaving a link to it down below, but basically this is a video in which I talk about books in ABC order and I just talk about 5 books in every episode, and the reason I'm doing this is because sometimes I haven't even talked about these books on my channel and I just kind of want to talk about them with you guys and just be able to talk about these books more because some of them I feel like I don't even mention on my channel ever, and so I think that this is a better way to be showing you my books instead of doing a bookshelf tour. A lot of you had a positive response to my last video of this, so I hope you enjoy this one as well. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about today is one that I'm sure you have all heard of and most of you have probably read, and that book is Allegiant by Veronica Roth. This was actually one of the books that got me back into reading, and my mom bought it for me without telling me because I had read the previous 2 books, but I didn't really know that the third one was coming out or anything about it because at this time I wasn't really into booktube at all and I didn't really know about it. So she bought it for me on a whim, and then I just immediately got so enraptured in this story once again. I can't really tell you guys what this book is about since it is the finale of a trilogy, but the first book is about a dystopia in which people are separated into 5 different factions. Those factions being centered around personal qualities such as bravery or honesty or intelligence, and it's just about those factions kind of crashing apart and someone realizing that you can't really put someone into a box like that. I finished this book on November 8th of 2013 and I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. This is such a sad book. I'm pretty sure I've cried more reading this book than I have whenever I read The Fault in Our Stars. One time I remember like driving to work and I was just crying on the way there because of this book, and I was just thinking back to it because at the time I wasn't like spoiled for it or anything about the ending, and so whenever it happened it just kind of blew me away and I didn't expect it to end the way that it did. Although personally I think that there was reason why that happened, and I think that Tris is one of the bravest characters I've ever seen in a book. I thought it was a very realistic ending, although a lot of people hated it. I thought that it took a lot of bravery for Veronica Roth to actually do that, and so it was such a different ending from any series I've ever read, and so I really enjoyed it. Although it did leave me in tears, overall it did kind of spark my reading again, and so I definitely owe a lot to this book. The next book I have is Alphas by Lizzie Harrison, and I bought this book because I had read the Clique series and I just really loved it, and this is kind of about a spin-off character from the Clique, so I definitely thought that I should pick it up. This centers around 4 girls, but it is about a lot of these girls being sent to this island called Alpha Island, and so they're kind of mentored there and their talents are really brought out. And although it has girl drama, it is also inspiring to see all of these talented girls kind of succeed in their different ways. I read this quite a few years ago and I think it was like my freshman year possibly in high school. I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. Maybe if I read it again I wouldn't rate it so high, but at the time I just really enjoyed reading this. The girls are all very unique and they have their own different plot lines and character arcs and all this different stuff that they're going through. I felt like it was a very unique story and I really haven't read anything like it or heard of anything like it, and so if you kind of want to be inspired by strong girls and you're in middle school or maybe even in high school, I would recommend this book as well as the other 3 books in the series. This next book you guys have heard me talk about before, and I also have a book discussion over it, so I will be leaving a link to that book discussion down below. But it is Angel Fall by Susan E. And I got this book because I've heard just such good things about this series, and also because the 3rd book in the trilogy just recently came out, and so I wanted to read the first 2 books before that happens. This trilogy is all about a girl named Penryn and also her sister and her mother, and at the very beginning her sister gets kidnapped by these evil angels, and so she bands together with another angel named Rafi to go try to find her sister and save her. This is a post-apocalyptic world in which evil angels have come and they're trying to just kill off the humans basically, and they're just very, very evil, and it is a very creepy story, but also very worth it. I finished this book on April 14th of 2015, so basically within the last month. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It was incredible. I love the main character of this book, who is Penryn, and she's just very stubborn, but also very witty, and I really enjoy her character. There's not a lot of romance in the series, which is kind of nice, and it is just so action-packed and fast-paced that you really don't realize how fast you're getting through these books, but they're amazing and I cannot recommend them enough. Next book I have is Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. And oddly enough, I haven't really mentioned this book a whole lot on my booktube channel, which is weird because I love it so much. But I originally heard about this book from John Green on the Vlogbrothers channel, and he was just recommending a lot of books. And this was one of them because Stephanie Perkins is actually a nerd fighter, and so she handed this book to John Green and she thought he might enjoy it, and so he really did enjoy it. And so I was like, wow, if John Green loves this book, then I should definitely pick it up. And then I found BookTube not that much later, and so I decided I had to pick it up because literally everyone was talking about it. This is about a girl named Anna, and she is sent to a boarding school in Paris. There she meets a lot of people that she becomes friends with, especially a guy named Etienne St. Clair, and their relationship is very complicated but also very adorable, and this book overall is just full of adorableness. I finished this book on June 15th of 2014, and I distinctly remember reading it on the plane on my way to and from New York City, and so I think it's really interesting whenever you are able to read a book on a plane like you were traveling. And also this is kind of a book that takes me to a different place as well, so it was kind of a perfect read for that time, and I will definitely always have memories associated with this book and also with New York City. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It is adorable and you will not regret reading it. It is so amazing. I love Stephanie Perkins' writing style and the characters she creates, and I definitely recommend this one. And the final book I will be talking about today is The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. And I bought this book along with the other 3 books in the Throne of Glass series because I had heard just such good things about it, and so I wanted to go ahead and pick all of them up at the same time. But look how beautiful this cover is. I'm sure a lot of this was because it was a cover buy. Like, this is so beautiful. I love the colors in it. And this is a bind up of 5 different short stories from the Throne of Glass world, but it's kind of like a prequel to the Throne of Glass world in a way that it is just about Selena and how her life has kind of became what it is. A lot of people are confused about which order to read these books in, but personally for me, I read the first 3 books in the Throne of Glass series, and then I read this, but definitely read the first 2 books at least in the Throne of Glass series before you read it, because there are things that you need to know in the Throne of Glass series and really have the world building, because there is not very much world building that happens in this because they are just novellas. But I think that it is definitely worth it to read this as well because there are characters like Arobin and Sam that aren't very talked about within the Throne of Glass series, but you really need to know who they are, and so it was definitely worth picking this book up and reading it. And also it was just amazing because it was by Sarah J. Maas. I read this on November 6th of 2014, and I just really remember loving it because of the different things that happen in it, and just really loving the characters in this one as well. Like, it kind of feels like a completely different story than Throne of Glass is because there are just so many different characters in it, and the only one that you really know is Selena, and I just really enjoyed really seeing the backstory of how Selena became the way she is and how Arobin is such a horrible person. And I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. And as far as the bind up of novellas goes, this is one of the most incredible ones I've ever read, and I would definitely suggest that you read this too if you're into Throne of Glass. And so those were the 5 books that I wanted to talk about today. I would love to hear your thoughts on these books down below. And I know a few people wanted to do them as well, so I definitely recommend that you do them, and if you have, then definitely leave me a link to your videos down below because I would love to watch them. If you have read any of these books, I would love to know which one is your favorite, and I will see you guys next time. I'm gonna go get back to reading.